when you look at the starters, there's a lot of people wondering if LeBron should be a starter.
Mm-hmm.
If Giannis Antetokounmpo, should be a starter.
Right.
This is not like quality. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
People need to understand that. And this is what's not going to sit well with a lot of people. LeBron's a starter because he plays for the Lakers.
Yep.
Steph's a starter because he is wildly popular.
Yep.
Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell play in Utah, and they have not rightfully earned an all-star start.
Yeah.
Because
by popularity,
you're not going to beat San Francisco. You're not going to beat Los Angeles. You're not going to beat Portland. You're not going to beat Chicago. You're not going to beat Milwaukee. Those guys winning those votes in the East and the Western Conference are doing it in major markets.
Yep.
But if I said to you, hey, look at the talent that is on the Western Conference All-Star starters.
Yeah.
Do Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert belong there?
I don't personally think so. I look at Jokic being a starter, and I say, yeah, in my opinion, Jokic is a better player, number one. But number two, he's a more popular player. I think I look at Luka, and that's the guy where I'm like, not really sure he should be starting this year. He hasn't really had a great first half. He is a great player, but it hasn't been a great year for him, whereas Donovan's having a great year. So if I had to pick one guy where I could say or try to make a case, Luka would be that one guy. Just because he's just not like, he's just meh. Like, it's not like there's nothing like that I can hold on to with Luka, And I think Donovan has played really well. I mean, and this is the thing that really should be frustrating for Jazz fans. Even when Rudy and Donovan are putting up huge numbers, what are they, 20-5 now? I think they are overall. They're having a great season. That doesn't mean that you're going to be an all-star starter.
And this is why I mentioned Portland.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard should be there over
Damian Lillard should be starting.
Donovan Mitchell and Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
I just, with all due respect, Luka's a superstar, talent-wise. But, compare Luka and Dame.
I would take Dame all day. I would.
But based on what?
Based on the fact that I think Dame is more clutch. He's done it time and time again. I think Dame is the second best point guard in the West, behind Steph. I think that Dame has been, and this is kind of a smaller minutia detail, but I think the loyalty piece, especially in today's game, I think you can add that to his resume. It's not a reason why he should be a starter, certainly, but I think when you say, hey, this guy's played his entire career for one team so far, and he's been trying to get them over the hump year after year after year, I think that adds to his case, But overall, I think Dame's a better player. I think he can do more for you. I think he's a more consistent player. And by the way, I don't see him crying on the sideline when they lose, He's the guy that's trying to come, bring them back. That's the way he goes. Whereas I really hate that I see Luka on the sideline all the time at the end of games, literally, they're not running down his face, but his eyes are watery.
Every single night.
And then he's the guy that's going to bitch about fouls and not getting fouls and that, every play, And I know that in the NBA, a lot of guys complain, and Dame has his fair share, but there's levels to it, Guys like Harden, guys like Luka, guys like LeBron, they're always complaining, always. And that's a turnoff for me. So, yeah, I would take Dame over Luka. In terms of Donovan, I think Donovan has a case, but I think, again, this is why you got to get to the finals. You need the exposure desperately.
Yeah, I think if the Jazz go to the NBA Finals, their popularity skyrockets.
Yeah.
You look at Karl Malone and John Stockton, the profile that they had.
Yeah.
What would that profile be like today? It'd be exponentially higher.
Yeah.
With social media and with more TV exposure and the way that the interwebs have exploded since the days of Stockton and Malone. I think
Twitter's been going crazy.
It would be already with a Ted Cruz drop. You would have a lot more exposure for the Jazz, and I think that's what Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are struggling with. Now, let's truth tell on Rudy Gobert, and I know that this is going to piss Jazz fans off because it always does, and I don't mean to do that. Rudy Gobert is not worthy of being an all-star starter. I'm not sure he is. I'm not sure that he is a real compelling player on any level across this league.
Those statements are not true, and I ask that you strike them.
Well, look, Senator, I get it, man, but tell me that Rudy Gobert has mass appeal across the NBA.
Oh, he doesn't. I don't think your average NBA fan knows who Rudy Gobert is. Like, if you asked an East Coast NBA fan, hey, do you know who Rudy Gobert is? Like, do you ever watch him? I don't think they would say yes. I think they would say, yeah, I've heard of him, but I don't really know him. I don't watch him, Certainly I don't know what he brings to the table or what his game is like. You ask a West Coast fan, yeah, they'll probably know more about it because they watch him more. But I don't think that, and this is really where things kind of get real for Rudy. I don't think if you put Rudy on I don't think if you put Rudy on every single team in the league, he's the same player that he is with the Jazz.
No.
No. And that's why I say I don't even think that Rudy should be an all-star starter. I'm serious. I don't think he should be.
I don't even. Again, I'm trying to be gentle. I don't know that it's even a controversy that he's not. Donovan Mitchell has a real case.
Yeah.
I think this idea that it's a popularity contest needs to be embraced.
Yeah.
Because it should be Luka or Dame. It should be Donovan or Dame.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be Luka Doncic. I mean, that's a popularity contest. He's only an all-star starter because he plays in Dallas, and they have a larger fan base.
Yep.
That's what this is about. And again, that's why I brought up Portland earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Dame is a guy who is capable of pulling that kind of vote.
Yeah, Dame has a brand. Dame is known. Dame, you can ask any NBA fan and they'll know Dame time, they'll know him and his story. But at the same time, you still play in Portland, You're still, again, that's another team just like the Jazz. They're essentially the same team as the Jazz almost in the sense that, they make the playoffs, but they never get to the finals. They can never get to the Western Conference Finals even, So that's why I say, at some point, these guys got to go out and do something because where you really start picking up notoriety, if you will, as an NBA player who's in a smaller market is when you get deeper into the postseason. When you're playing for Western Conference Finals and you're on ABC and, you're on national television. You can't be missed. You're on national television in prime time. You can't be missed. So that's what needs to happen, and it's not happening right now.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how Jazz fans react to that because I think if I'm a Jazz fan, I do feel slighted. And I think obviously there's a lot of emotion in that, and there's obviously a lot of frustration in that, and I totally get it. But this is what is so difficult for Jazz fans to digest. And it is very simply that Jokic is a better player than Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
He is more of an all-around player. Offensively, it's not even a conversation. Passing, it's not even a conversation. Defensively, is Rudy more of a weapon defensively? Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I would think so. But this is not a defensive league; it's an offensive league.
Yeah.
And if you look at what on a nightly basis Jokic brings to the yard, it's a lot more than Rudy Gobert. And the real conversation is Jazz fans want to say, oh, well, we shoot threes. We're the best three-point shooting team in the league. That's why we belong amongst the conversation of the best teams in the league. Okay, well, Rudy Gobert doesn't shoot threes. Rudy Gobert isn't really an offensive force. So you can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
That which is what you want to do with Rudy Gobert in this conversation, and I just don't think you can do that.
Yeah, Rudy doesn't shoot the basketball. That's just not what his role is or what his game is. I mean, and I say this pretty consistently on the show. If you watch Jazz basketball and you watch 5 possessions in a row of just watch Rudy Gobert, don't watch the rest of the guys, what happens is Rudy will come down. From the defensive end, he will run down to the offensive end. He will then wait for the offense to get in its place. He will then run up to the top of the key, set some picks, and then he winds up fading either to the right or the left side of the paint, and he's just offset waiting for something to happen so he can go and rebound. That's what he does. And
he will rim run.
Yeah, and I'm not sitting here saying that is a problem or criticizing him. I'm telling you that's his game.
It's just that's just a fact.
Yeah, that's just what he does.
Yeah.
Whereas Jokic is giving you 50 a night on some nights, and he's also giving you the rebounding and the defense and all that. So he's a better player.
And the other part is that Nicola Jokic is evolving. He is growing as an offensive player. I think this is who Rudy Gobert is going to be. He can give you within 3 feet. He can give you a little baby hook. He can get you a layup, and obviously he can dunk. Rudy Gobert is an offensive player, is a cleanup player, and there's real value in that in this league. But that's not in the last 5 minutes of a quarter, a half, or a game, because he gets lost in those moments. Tonight is a huge night for the Jazz. If Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, who has very long fingers that are phallic in nature, if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard play tonight and they are questionable, they have been upgraded to questionable. I have to think that Paul George plays. I mean, the swelling in his bone marrow apparently has gone down. It's the craziest diagnosis I've ever heard.
Dude.
Seriously, that's what Paul George's injury was.
I don't get it, dude. Like,
swollen bone marrow. That's crazy. They say that he is recovered from that and that he should be good to go. I think the Jazz have been very fortunate that they've run into a lot of teams who are not at 100%.
mm-hmm.
And they beat the Clippers the other night with the Jazz playing not their typical style of basketball. They had an off night shooting. They just didn't play well. If Kawhi Leonard and or Paul George play in that game, Clippers probably win that game.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and the Jazz did.
Yep.
The Jazz were fortunate that the Clippers were not at 100%. I also think the fourth quarter, the Jazz dominated.
Yeah, and
So-
I think the thing here is that I'm not comfortable saying that, and I'm not insinuating that you said this, but just overall, generally speaking, I'm not comfortable saying that the Jazz have gotten lucky or that they're lucky to be at 20-5.
Oh, no. They've been fortunate with some of the
yeah.
circumstances around the teams that they have played.
I agree. I think that it definitely has helped, and it's made their life a bit easier that some of these teams have had, not star players playing, And again, the Jazz can only play who's in front of them, right? It's not their fault that these teams have injuries,
No,
but at
not
the
at
same
all.
time, when I look at the 20-5 record, or where they're right around there, when I look at that record, I say, okay, well,
24 and 5.
24-5. My bad. Yeah, 24-5. So you look at that record and you say, okay, well, so the Clippers fully healthy win that game the other night. I don't have any doubt about that. Based on the way the game went and how everything unfolded, I think the Clippers win that game. Okay, 23 wins.
Look at the Philly win.
Then I look at the Philly win. And
No Joel Embiid.
Then I say, hey, if Joel plays in that game, I would say that they lose
134,
that.
123.
I mean,
was
that's
the
a pretty
final of
close
that game.
game without Joel.
You gave up 123 points without their best player.
Yeah.
And I look, the Jazz have earned their record. They're the best team in the NBA. I don't have any doubt about that. What I'm saying is I really hope that we run into a Clipper team tonight that is at full force, because I want the Jazz to win that game against the Clippers at 100%.
Yeah, and I think we need to see that. We need to see the Jazz play teams that are fully healthy. So there's no excuses, and we truly do get a benchmark of who this team is. I need to see what the Jazz can do defensively against a Clippers roster or a Lakers roster or whatever roster that has all their stars playing. That's all I want to see.
Well, and Bradley says, you guys always pick on the Jazz. You're such haters. That's 2 games. They've beaten a lot of good teams. Name me another. Well, I would go back to the Atlanta Hawk game, right? When you look at, and again, I'm not slighting the Jazz, and I know this always comes off like that, but, did Trae Young play against the Jazz? No, he did not. The Hawks' leading scorer that night was Collins, who scored 17 points. Which is fine. Like, Danilo Gallinari scores 5 points in that game. Tony Snell scores 12 points in that game.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is the Jazz have earned their record. There is no doubt about that. They have been very fortunate with the opponents they've run into at the time they've run into them. You're going to run into, hopefully, a Hornets team on, Monday night? Mm-hmm. Who's not going to have played. I mean, I'd love to see the Hornets play tonight. Mm-hmm. But they're in COVID protocol, so nobody is sure if they're playing tonight. We'll see about that. I mean, the Jazz and Hornets play here in Salt Lake on Monday. The Lakers come in on Wednesday. They're not going to have Anthony Davis in that game.
And that's the thing. Like, I think that Jazz fans get upset when we talk about this because they're like, oh, well, you're such haters, and, you guys always pick on the Jazz. Okay, I get why he says that. But at the same time, this is what's presented to us. This is what we're looking at. Go and look at the schedule. Go and look at the teams they've played.
Yeah.
It is literally the reality of what they've done. So, like, seriously, ponder this question. Take your Jazz fandom out of it. Take all the bias out of it, and just genuinely ask the question. Hey, if the Clippers were 100% healthy, what's the outcome of that game the other night? If Philly was 100% healthy, what's the outcome of that game last night? Right? Like the Denver win on January 31st, that's a good win. That's a good win.
Yes.
That's a quality win, right? But overall, I don't know. I get a little worn out on Jazz fans being like, well, you guys just hello.
Yeah, my phone's making noise all of a sudden. I don't know why. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, I just get burned out on Jazz fans being like, well, you guys just pick on the Jazz. No, dude, we don't just pick on the Jazz. What we pick on is Rudy Gobert not developing an offensive jump shot on any level. Like, that's just not in his game, and it really hurts the Jazz against the elite teams in the West. And that's, I don't think there's anything wrong with that conversation.
Well, and I also think that what I find interesting for Rudy as well is that you find situations where Rudy goes up against a lot of attacking players that are smaller than him. Like I would go back to those Pelican matchups. One of those games, Rudy, that night that Zion had a big night and those back-to-back games, I'd have to go back and look at that box, but I'm pretty sure Rudy had like a 10-point or 12-point, 11-rebound game, because Zion's attacking. Now, I think the next night, Rudy had a big night. But I also think you saw something, and I know Jazz fans got all pissed off the other day when I said this. What did Ben Simmons do early in that game? Ben Simmons attacked the rim. He attacked Rudy Gobert. And I think Rudy has a tough matchup when that happens.
Yeah.
And I think it is very interesting to see how teams go at Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Much to your point, when are we going to see a team that's going to try and take Rudy out of that game early? And they're doing that because they want to get Rudy Gobert in foul trouble.
Yeah.
Now, he's been very smart, I think.
He has.
And he's kept himself on the floor. I'll be interested to see if he's able to do that, because if you look at what they have down the stretch here, they have a lot of games where they're going to get attacked.
But here's the thing. This is what I am concerned about. And I know I talk about the Nuggets all the time when we talk Jazz.
Yes.
But I go back, looking back, just to appease this Jazz fan that's all pissed off, right? I go back to the January 31st game against the Nuggets. What's the headline of that game? Jokic has 47 points. Nuggets end Jazz streak at 11.
Yeah.
47 for Jokic in that game, right? And that's Rudy's matchup. So then, you go just going again up and down the Jazz schedule here, and I just say, okay, well, I'm looking at the Minnesota game, right, on December 26th. Now, early in the year, totally get it. Okay, great, right? But what does it say? Like, it says Cat had a big game, and that's and my point just is, hey, mobile big men versus this team are a problem. I'm telling you, later this year, when we're battling for postseason position, to what you were just talking about, I guarantee you teams will go after Rudy Gobert. Guaranteed. Because if Rudy's off the floor, then you're dealing with Derek Favors. Then you go back to a more traditional matchup where you can just get him out of the way and pick and roll, and he's not long enough to recover from that. And that, I think, is what teams want.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's funny, I'm messaging actually on LinkedIn with a Jazz fan.
Damn, on LinkedIn. That's crazy, bro.
Yeah. Hey, it's not hard to find me, man. And Michael says, it's not that you guys are haters. Jazz fans have always been super sensitive. We've always felt like we're second. We're never as good as the Lakers. We're never as popular as Steph and the Warriors. And it's frustrating. And he sends me another message that says, Rudy Gobert is the best center in the NBA in an era where there's no such thing as a best center in the NBA.
I can't agree with that, bud, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
What do you mean?
I can't agree with Rudy Gobert's the best center in the league. Can't agree with that.
I think he's one of them.
Yeah, he's one of them.
I mean, he's
yeah,
there.
Sure,
like,
he's in the group.
Who's the best center in the NBA?
I think Jokic is the best center.
Right now, it'd have to be Jokic.
I think Karl Anthony Towns is in the conversation.
Yeah, but injuries and inconsistency have really hurt him.
Yeah, that's true. I don't disagree with that.
I think he's faded.
Yeah.
I think he's faded now. if you're looking at big men, I think obviously Joel's got to be there.
I think if again Porzingis has had major injuries, but I think he's on the way
He'll
back.
never be a center. He'll always be a 4. That's why I think they want Andre Drummond,
Yeah.
so that he can play that 3-4. And the way this league has gone now, there's just such a mix of different talent. Like it's what the Clippers did the other night against the Jazz.
Huh.
The Clippers didn't have their best players, Longfinger and PG. well, it's true. Longfingers and Paul George,
Long fingers.
right? They didn't have Kawhi and PG, so they went small. It was really effective.
Here's the game plan.
We're going small, right? And Lou Williams and that whole group of guys
Yeah.
were really effective.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what the Clippers are like, and will they stay small?
Let me ask
because
this-
a guy look at Zubats.
Yeah.
Zubats didn't really have a place in that game.
And he had trouble. But I think this is the question, one of the last questions I would ask to Jazz fans listening to the show right now. Do you say, hey, Rudy's the best center in the league in a time when there's no centers in the league as kind of like a crutch to keep him relevant? Because if we were to, let's look at it this way. Let's say that we went ahead and
But
said,
is he not? Is Rudy Gobert irrelevant?
but hear me out. In the league right now today, Jazz fans are totally right, and we've talked about this. You don't have centers anymore. You just have bigs, and you've got regular players, right? It's big man versus point guard or whatever, someone who's not a big.
Right.
So if we were to couch the question of, hey, is Rudy one of the best bigs in the league? Is he a top 5 big in the league? I think that totally changes the conversation because I think he's right in that mix somewhere. But I think you can make a case for all these other guys. When you're comparing them to AD and Jokic and like all these guys who are bigs but not centers.
Giannis
Yeah.
or Gobert?
I would take Giannis. I would totally take Giannis because neither of them can shoot, and Giannis is way more athletic.
Giannis is going to give you 30.
Yeah,
Average night, he's probably going to give you 20.
yeah,
And he's just as good a defender as Gobert is.
and he's got the transition game.
And I still think he's incredibly overrated.
Agreed. I totally agree.
I think Giannis is way overrated. Joel's the best center in the East,
Yeah,
right? Rudy and Giannis are probably not a good comparison. Giannis, in my opinion, is much more of a 4. But other than that, like, there's not a whole lot of centers I would take. Now, if you want to talk power forwards,
Adebayo.
there's a lot of value in Bam.
Yeah,
I mean, the way he is playing, I think he's on the verge of. I mean, he's in my opinion, he's easily one of the top 5 bigs in the league. 4s and 5s.
yeah, he is. He's very versatile.
Porzingis is not.
No, injuries really hurt him, man.
Who's the, like, I look at Anthony Davis.
He's probably the best,
I think Anthony Davis is the best big in
but
the league.
injuries.
Well, now he's got this calf Achilles thing.
All I want out of Rudy Gobert is just a basic baseline jumper. That's all I want to see him develop, and I don't think it'll ever happen. Like, literally,
It's not who he is.
if he would just give me an elbow jumper, that's it. Like, we don't need you to be shooting threes and doing what the Lopez brothers do.
If Rudy Gobert will just make 70-something% of his free throws,
Yeah,
he is more than a serviceable offensive player.
yeah,
The problem is when his free throw shooting's gotten much better this year. There's no question. But early in the year, that's where they were really struggling with how to integrate him consistently. And I think it's why you see nights where he plays 20 minutes because it's very difficult. If Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are able tonight, they're going to have a lot of trouble playing Rudy Gobert 35 minutes.
yep.
That's just not going to be possible.
And I do think before we leave this conversation, we should be giving Quinn Snyder a lot of credit for managing this team because he did. For those of you who are under a rock and didn't hear, he is the Western Conference All-Star head coach this year.
Yes.
And I think he deserves a lot of credit. I think he's done a hell of a job, and not just because they're 24-5. More what I'm speaking on is managing Rudy and like the matchups and putting the Jazz in a good position to win games. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. I look at a couple other things around the league and I am amazed at how bad the Lakers are without Anthony Davis. And when I say bad, are they still a top 5 team in the NBA without Anthony Davis? They are. They're not a championship caliber team without him.
yeah,
And I think that we're starting to see that LeBron can carry a lot of the load.
Yeah.
He cannot carry all of the load.
no,
And I don't know what they do I mean, they're another team that if I'm the Lakers, I'm trying to get Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
Because you've got to find somebody who can be more athletic than Marc Gasol is. And I understand we put a huge premium. I get that. But how much did they miss Dennis Schroeder last night?
Yeah, a lot.
I mean,
that's a team that their role players are so important to them, and obviously that's the definition of a role player, right? Like they do one thing, but they're supposed to do it really well. Guys like Schroeder and all those other guys that are role players on that team, like those guys play just a massive role for the Lakers because you're right. LeBron's not able to carry the whole team anymore to a championship. The league is just too good. He's got a lot of miles, but he's still a hell of a player. Like he's still one of the best players in the world.
He put up 32 points last night.
Yeah, but like there's a difference between putting up 32 points and pulling your own weight versus carrying the club when AD's out. And he's just not there.
You know what? They need Kyle Kuzma to be a 20-point guy.
He's just. I don't know when Kyle Kuzma is going to take the next step. When is Kyle Kuzma going to be? Because what they really need him to be is like their Lou Williams. They need him to put the ball in the hole when he gets the ball. Simple as that. And he doesn't do it.
Yeah, he is. Kyle Kuzma is a bit of an enigma. I mean, I think he's real mercurial. He's that new age young basketball player that doesn't say a whole lot. If you look at the bright young stars in this league, Luka doesn't say a whole lot. Trae Young doesn't say a whole lot.
Ja talks a bunch of crap on the floor, but he doesn't say a lot.
Yeah, but where is he? They're not real boisterous guys off the floor.
Devin Booker doesn't say a lot off the floor.
At all. You never hear from Devin.
No, Jason Tatum doesn't say a lot off the floor.
That's who the new guys Jason Tatum's a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Jason Tatum is a killer, but not often enough.
You feel like LaMelo Ball says a lot? Or was that just his past?
I don't know yet. He's too young. Yeah. And the interesting thing about the Hornets, you don't miss them when they're not playing. But, man, you love watching them when they are.
Love watching them play.
And honestly, I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but, like, you miss Kevin Durant when he's not playing. Like, watching the Nets game last night, was like pulling teeth because my wife hates NBA basketball. Like, she does not enjoy watching it at all. Mm-hmm. So, flipping back and forth, she forced me to watch some Netflix show that I can't remember the name of. It come on. Man, she is emasculating me with Netflix right now.
I personally would like an apology.
Yeah, I would like an apology. And then we had to watch Finding Your Roots, the DNA show, which is, okay, that show's interesting. I want my Laker basketball, right? And so
I want it.
She has no desire. She's like, oh, we're going to turn on basketball? All right, I'm going to go upstairs and get ready for bed. And, yeah, you want to sip from the cup? You should probably turn that off and come upstairs. Right? I mean, that's essentially how my life goes now. We watch chick flicks and then yeah.
Right.
Anyway, the point is,
right.
You miss Kevin Durant when you watch the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you do. You miss AD when you watch the Lakers.
Yeah.
You don't miss LaMelo Ball when he's not playing. You don't miss the Hornets when they're not playing.
He's not quite there yet. You're right. Yeah.
I think he's a star now.
He will be.
I think there's a real good chance he's an all-star.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't happen at all because they shouldn't be playing that game. But the team that's really interesting right now, like what is wrong with the Sacramento Kings?
They play in Sacramento. They're irrelevant.
Well, they're young and they just. When does that team win consistently?
Yeah, I don't know, man. They got a lot of talent, and they've got a lot of talent, but it just seems like they don't have enough. Yet another team that is really entertaining to watch. You've got Buddy Hield, you've got De'Aaron. I mean, you've got Halliburton. You've got talent, but you just don't have enough talent to win consistently.
Yeah, it's not yeah, I guess that's the right way to say it.
You don't have the core guy that brings everyone together, that everyone plays around. Like De'Aaron, is the guy that, takes the clutch shots and everything, but that's not who he typically would be.
I wish I understood what was the, and I covered that team from 2005 to 2006, or 2003 to 2006. And I mean, as soon as Chris Webber got hurt, that team went away.
Yeah.
That night in Dallas, the fortunes of that franchise changed.
And I feel like their brand as an organization used to be like this gritty ass team that wanted to kick your ass, and now they don't really have a brand. They don't really, like, if you ask me, like, what's the Kings' identity? I don't know. I mean, they're just a team.
I don't know. They everybody got excited when Vivek bought that team, and it just is never. They've never been able to take that next step forward. Everybody then got excited when they got the new arena, and they still haven't been able to take that next step forward. And everybody got excited with Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox and now Halliburton, and they're still not taking that next step forward.
Yeah.
And I know they're incredibly young, but at what point do they mature? Because when you're an NBA superstar, you're an NBA superstar right out of the gate. You know, like
LaMelo Ball.
LaMelo Ball,
Zion.
yeah, Zion Schmeyen. I'm still not a Zion guy.
Ja Morant.
Ja Morant for sure. Jason Tatum for sure.
Luka.
Luka for sure.
Trae Young.
For sure. Like, you look at all these guys, and you just know right out of the gate, the Jordans, the LeBrons, think back to, Kobe missed all those threes, oddly enough, in Charlotte, but you knew he was a guy right out of the gate. Shaq dominated right out of the gate. Dwayne Wade dominated right out of the gate. Larry, Magic starting at center, like winning an NBA championship right out of the gate. Like, you know the goods when you see it. And I don't know. Do they have a superstar on the Sacramento Kings?
No, not yet. Not yet. De'Aaron's trying, but not yet.
I mean, Buddy can shoot.
You can't just be a shooter though.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with that team. They just should be better. And it's not Luke Walton's fault. They were talking about this on the NBA on TNT postgame show last night. Like, they fired 1,000 coaches. They've tried every different philosophy. It's not the coach.
Yeah. They're bad at basketballing.
I don't get that, because you have a new owner. You have new management.
Well, new doesn't mean better. I mean, this is what we've seen in Phoenix for so long.
Well,
right.
But you have ownership has gotten you this brand new arena. They've injected new energy into that city.
And the Jazz are better.
And they
just not quite good enough.
Jazz are in the same boat.
Oh, yeah. The Jazz are, it's...
That's why, and I don't mean to belabor this point. We're going to get on to Carson Wentz real quick here in a second. But that's why it matters when you lose to the Nuggets last year. That's why it matters when you can't have Rudy on the floor in the last 5 minutes of a game.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being good. I want to be great.
Yeah, and I think that's where Jazz fans are too. And this is what I'm saying. Like, I understand it pisses you guys off, but at the end of the day, again, I'm just telling you, mark my words. The Nuggets are a problem for this team. They are a problem. The Nuggets are a problem. And until you get over that hump, you can't really talk about getting to the Western Conference Finals, man. You just can't.
Yeah.
Can't do it.